In this video, we're going to play around with border radiuses a bit and see what fun stuff we can do. So the first example that we want to do, as you can see, I've got three divs here, and I want this div to have a nice rounded border here, like a semicircle, and then the last item I also want to have a semicircle on that. So how can I do that? So before we actually look at that particular sample, maybe we can just do a very simple example just to sort of cover the bases first. So you should know that if I add a border radius, I can say that I want the border radius to be, let's say, 10 pixels. And that will give me a bit of a rounded edge around the borders. But I can also use percentages. So if I say that the border radius is 50%, then I actually get a nice round circle. So this is one of the easiest ways to draw circles on the UI, so by the way. And I can play with any sort of combination in between, but I don't have to stop there. I can say affect each corner of my rect individually, and so I can use the border radius and define it to affect each corner. So if I want to have my first item have a rounded border here, what I'll probably need is a class that I will attach to this div that will round these two corners for me. And if I want to get this one rounded off here, I'm going to attach a class, let's call it last, that will do the same, but instead it'll use the different corners. So let's go and do that quickly. For now, I've created the classes just as empty stubs, and I have assigned them to the individual div items, but we're actually going to be applying this in the browser so we can see the effect take place as we make the changes. Selecting our first div, we can see there's our .first class, and we know that we want to put a border radius on it. So let's say border dash radius, and let's start off with just 50%, and we can say, well, everything now gets affected by 50%, but I don't want that. But add a space and then put in a 0, and I can see, okay, well, that's interesting. If I only use two characters, it affects the opposite corners. The first corner, which is the top left, and then the third corner, which is the bottom right, which means that if I turn this around and say 0 space 50%, I'm going to affect the other two corners. Alright, so let's make this 50% because I want the top left corner to be affected. And what I now know is that there is a sequence. First we affect the top left corner, then the top right corner, then the bottom right corner, then the bottom left corner. So I can say I want the top left corner to be 50%. The top right corner I don't want to be affected. The bottom right corner I don't want to be affected. But then the last corner I do want to be affected. And now I have that little circle at there. And we just repeat that with the last, except we do it in a bit of a different way. So we say the border dash radius, top left is 0, top right is 50%, bottom right is also 50%, and then the bottom left is 0. Cool. Hope you enjoyed playing with border radiuses.